So if you're stuck in an endless cycle of practicing these tricky or high frequency or common exception words, and you're using endless flashcards and the words just aren't sticking for the children, and you're looking for some new material, some creative approaches to be able to teach these high frequency or tricky words, then this film is for you.
For more than a decade, I've trained thousands of practitioners, teachers and parents in how to teach phonics and early reading spectacularly well. And on this channel I'm sharing heaps of phonics games, reading activity ideas and top tips with you.
By the end of this film, you'll have 3 brand new tricky word teaching games to help you teach tricky words or high frequency or sight words in your classroom or at home spectacularly well.
So subscribe to my channel to add a bit of sparkle into your phonics and early reading teaching, and don't forget to click the bell to be notified for new videos every single Thursday.
So high frequency or sight words or tricky words like this one here, you, are traditionally more tricky to teach because they don't follow the phonetic patterns of all other words that we've been trying to teach children. They're exception words. They don't follow the rules. They're rule breakers. And also by themselves they don't really mean very much. So words like are or they or said or were or the are crucial to children's abilities to be able to read, but they don't really mean very much in and by themselves. So words like cat or sheep have much more meaning. So these are really important words for us to teach, but we need to find a creative way of helping children to remember them. Traditionally, approaches might have looked like endless flashcards to help children visually remember these words, and that's one approach. We might also have used mnemonics like this version here. But we know from research and from noticing what children do that these methods alone aren't always successful in teaching a new tricky word, and that actually repeated practice isn't of itself going to help children to be better readers or better spellers. So when we teach a new tricky word, what approach could we use? Let's have a look. So the most effective way to teach a new tricky word is to help the children to unpick the tricky part rather than having to remember the whole word as being tricky. So here's the word said, and there's bits in this word that the children already can work out using their phonics strategies, so that they already know that said begins with a s and said ends with a d. So actually, the beginning and the end of the word aren't tricky at all. The bit that the children need to remember is that it's the middle of the word which is tricky. And in the word said, it's the A and the I which normally make an A sound, but in this word, they're saying eh. So what we need to do is to really make this clear to the children, because to remember a small part of a word is much, much easier than having to remember the whole word on sight. Some children will, of course, remember this just by looking at it and having repeated practice with the word. But explaining to the children why this part is tricky in the word is going to give them much better understanding when it comes to apply when they spell. So once we've taught a new tricky word like you here, and we've learnt all of the rules around that tricky word, the next thing we need to do is to help the children to remember that new learning, to put it in the context of some games, and I've got some brilliant ones for you. These are games that I've played loads and loads of times in large groups, in small groups, and they really work. And the first one is my absolute favourite.
So here I've got the word because written with my fridge magnets, my magnetic letters, and what you're going to see is I've got slides with different spellings of the word because, and the idea is we want the children to look really closely, and if they see the real because, they're going to stand up, and if they see a fake because or a because that's spelled incorrectly, they're going to sit down. So this is perfect for those sight word days when you need the children to be active, to be really looking at the shape of the word and to be really concentrating and try and catch them out. Watch closely. So remember, when you see the real because, stand up. When you see a fake because, sit down. So it's as simple as that. I took the real spelling and lots of common errors that the children make, like this one, and I just moved my magnetic letters around, took photos on my phone, pasted them onto slides, and I got straight away a brilliant game that we can play lots and lots of times, particularly with words that children struggle to spell or consistently get all muddled up. So the classic game of Snap is brilliant for practicing children being able to read tricky words or those sight words, words that we can just learn by looking at them. And this game really gets children to look at the shape of the words and decide whether they're the same or whether they're different. So I'd start the game by explaining to the children that the new tricky word that we've just been taught is on the left hand side. So there it is, we can read the word he, and we've just learned why it's tricky. Next thing that we're going to think about is we're going to have cards that are added in on the right. They're going to fly in and we're going to read them all together, so everybody join in. And as they flash in, we're looking out for a snap. We're looking out for a second card or a second text box that looks exactly the same and reads he in exactly the same way. Now the words that we're going to use on the right hand side are going to be words that we can already read, so they're not going to be unfamiliar to the children. And the emphasis is going to really be on spotting that he when we see it. And when we see it, we're going to either call out snap, or you can think of more creative ways, so you can have an action, or you can stand up, sit down, have a different word for snap, but basically we're looking out for two that look exactly the same. So here's how we play. He, the, no snap. I, no snap. He, snap! He too, no snap. He go, no snap. He, snap! He no snap. He the, no snap. He, snap! And that's the simplicity of the game. So that's just using slides to create a snap situation and get children to be really looking. And that's perfect if we're working in a whole class in a large group situation and we've got a whiteboard or a large screen. But what if we don't have that? How could we replicate that at home or in a small group intervention type of situation in school? Let's take a look.
So this is what that game might look like if I'm playing with a small group in school, or maybe if I'm even practicing these high frequency or tricky words at home. It's a really, really simple game that you can play. And as you can see, I've no exciting resources particularly. I've written the words that I want to use on paper or card, and for the new words that I've been teaching or the new word that the children have been learning, I've written it in a different colour just to help the children to be able to see that word. And in my pack of words here I have more of the same, so I've got about 2 or 3 different versions of that word they ready for my snap game. And you can see that I've written these words in a cursive script. It's important that you follow, where if you're handwriting these words out, that you follow the script that the children are used to, that they're consistently using in school. And if you are in school and you're using cards, try and use cards which follow consistently with the method that is being used in the classroom if you're using a small group type of approach. And we're going to play this game in exactly the same way as we played the large scale game. We've got the word here, they, that the children are trying to snap with, and the words that I've got here in my small pile are words which the children already know, that they've already learnt, and they're looking out for the new word they. Now I'm doing this under the screen here. You could easily do this on a whiteboard, on a table, more or less anywhere. It is a game of snap. So literally all we're going to do is look at the words. There's the new words they. We're going to remind the children of that word, and then we're going to have a look, and as the new words are introduced, we're going to read them, and if we see a snap, we're going to call out snap. So they, like, come, some, they, snap. Was, they, snap. You, are, all, have, they, snap. So you can see there that my final word hasn't got a colour to it. You don't have to use the colour if you don't want to. It can just be black and white. I feel like sometimes when you're teaching something new, it can be really helpful to highlight it in a different colour to really help the children to remember and reinforce that new learning. So here's another tricky word or sight word game that you can play really quickly and easily at home or in a small group in school. And all you need is a pack of words. So again, I've written these on paper or card. You can use printed out ones, so you don't have to have them handwritten. They could be printed out if you've got those to hand, always remembering to follow that consistent approach with other methods that you're using in the classroom. And a timer. So I've got a phone here because I'm working in a small group or at home, but you could equally use something like a sand timer if you felt that was going to help the children also. And all this is a game to help the children rapidly recognise these words, because remember, we're not sounding these words out. These are tricky words, these are high frequency sight words. So we're kind of just wanting the children to be able to remember them rapidly so that when they see them in books or when they go to spell them, that actually they're not always having to work out what they are, that they can just see them, say them, remember them, and they're just part of their everyday reading and spelling. So this game is aimed at getting children to be much quicker at being able to do that, and it's a speed reading challenge. So we're going to read through the words on first attempt. We're going to set the timer for a minute, see how many words we can read in a minute, and then keep a score. And then at the end of that time, we're going to see if we can go more quickly on a second reading through of these words. You, they, come, like, all, they, some, have, they, all, like, come, they, you, are, was, they, some, like, come, they, you. So at the end of our speed reading first round, we're going to write down how many words we read. So let's keep a record. That time we read, let's say 15. And then all that we need to do next is practice exactly in the same way for a second round. This time we're going to try and beat our original score. So as the adult, we can lead it by getting quicker with the words, trying to expect the children to read more quickly. And that's how we get greater fluency of reading these tricky or these high frequency words, just by repeated practice. So this is exactly the same speed reading game that we could play if we were playing in a classroom. So rather than cards, we've got the same words. So in this instance, we were teaching the tricky word he, so you can see that in red. And there are other tricky words that the children have been previously taught, no, go, I, the, and so on, also listed there. So we're going to play the game with the timer again. A sand timer can be a great idea for this, but you can use, if you're using slides and an interactive whiteboard, you could find a timer that's more digital, so that might help you. These are just words on a slide, so I would just use these. We'd start from the beginning, and rather than just using the cards, I'd just be having the words on the slide and pointing to them as a teacher. I might I might go from top to bottom or bottom to top. I might sporadically go in and out and around all the different words to try and trick the children, to try and catch them out, to keep them on their toes. So that's another way of being able to play it. So instead of having words on cards, I'd just have the words on a slide as a list and play it in exactly the same way with a timer and try and beat our score. So there you have it. How to teach a brand new tricky word really well and how to practice it thoroughly through 3 simple but effective games which really work.
So that you can get started straight away, you'll find a link to all of the tricky word slides in the description below and some free phonics planning, including the tricky words that we've used. There's also links to my TES store where you can find all of the slides for the games that we've played, so you can get started with your class straight away.
If you've liked today's film, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and click the bell to be notified and subscribe to the channel for more phonics or early reading ideas every single Thursday. So I really hope you enjoy playing these tricky word games with your children as much as I've enjoyed sharing them with you. Don't forget to let me know in the comments below how you got on, and if you're brand new to phonics and teaching children to read using a phonic approach, then don't forget to check out this video here. This will give you so many ideas about how to teach phonics really well, how to introduce the letter sound correspondences to children, and how to say the sounds, because I know that can be a struggle when you're first starting out. But until next time, good luck with your phonics teaching. Bye for now.